What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to a brand new football news video, and in this video we will talk about a Premier League executive, one of the highest members of a Premier League football club. The article doesn't really reveal, the articles don't reveal his name for legal reasons, but one of the Premier League chief executives said that the Premier League season must be cancelled and must be made null and void for ethical reasons. And we will talk in detail about what this Premier League executive said, but what do you think about that argument? Because we don't know when football can restart, but I think it's absolute nonsense to replay this season, which is what exactly the Premier League executive is suggesting, that we should replay this season and cancel the season altogether, so like the season didn't happen, which is absolutely incredible. And there is already a dangerous thing going on in English football, because I think below the 6th tier of English football, so in non-league football where, you know, teams are not professional teams, but still non-league is a really important part of English football and grassroots football, and many players have come through non-league. The most famous probably is Jamie Vardy, who became Premier League champions with Leicester City. And those leagues below the 6th tier, I think, they were declared null and void, and they were basically cancelled so early into this global health crisis. I just don't understand why the lower leagues had to make this decision so early, when you don't even know that the rest of the English football pyramid, what they are going to do. And many teams have been denied promotion because of that. Hashtag United is probably the most famous that many of you guys know about, and I'm a big fan of Hashtag United and of Spencer, who is the leader of that team, and I feel really sorry for them, because they were the closest team to promotion, and they would get very likely to get promoted. But also there was another team who actually break all kinds of records, and they won 27 out of 27 games, and they were already promoted. It was already mathematically certain that they would get promoted, and their season gets cancelled as well, so they have to go again next season, whenever that will be. And I just find that deeply worrying and unethical and not fair, frankly, to just say that your season, it's like never happened. It was a bunch of friendlies when you won 27 out of 27 games and you are already promoted. I mean, how harsh is that? And I just can't see a scenario where the Premier League can do that, honestly. Not just for legal reasons, but for morality, for moral reasons. I mean, it would be just heartbreaking. And I think the Premier League teams who are pushing for this are the teams that would benefit from a scenario when the season is cancelled. Teams like potentially Arsenal, West Ham, you know, Tottenham, other teams, Manchester City as well. So let's actually hear what this Premier League chief executive said. You look at the people sitting around the Premier League table by Skype. Their egos cannot sustain a mirror being held up to them. This is what he said. The fact is, they are not as important as a Tesco delivery driver at this time. We run a game, no more no less. There is no place for sport at the moment. It's absolutely clear what is going to happen. It's a worldwide situation. You just start the Premier League season again, and there are very few losers. I know Liverpool are one of the biggest losers, but in the grand scheme of things, honestly, it really doesn't matter. You just got to start again. What is he talking about? Football is a never-ending cycle. You don't have a definitive endpoint. And why would you start next season or replay this season, essentially, without finishing this one? When the season is already 75% finished, it just doesn't make any sense for me. And let me know, guys, if I'm alone in this or if you agree with me. Even if this health crisis and this situation goes on for months and months, even if we can't play football safely until December, why would you just cancel the season? It just doesn't make any sense. Yes, probably a lot of time elapses between the Premier League getting suspended and football resuming, and probably football transfers will happen during that. But if it's not safe to play football, then it's not safe to fly to another country and complete a football transfer. So I don't think that the transfer window should be open while football cannot be played. So what I would suggest is just resume football when it's safe to do so, whenever that is. Complete this season first in every big country around Europe, and then put a proper transfer window in place whenever that happens, and then see whether you have enough time for a full season. Or maybe, I think the most likely scenario, even if this crisis will be over by like autumn or even by winter, just complete this season and then maybe cancel next season and just start fresh in July or August with a new season, just to remember, just to complete a full season properly. But I just don't see how you can restart this season without completing it. It doesn't make any sense for me. And the purpose of this idea to declare the season null and void is obvious. It's pretty obvious. Many Premier League teams have their own agenda. They are looking after their own interests and nothing else. They don't want it to be fair. They don't want it to be moral. They want it to be just the best scenario for them and for them only. And that is what really bothers me. Citing ethical reasons to cancel the season, that suggestion is highly unethical in my opinion. So I have a lot of problems with this request. And yes, part of their narrative is right, that football is just a game and it's not important right now. The health and safety of everyone is the most important. But football, it has a very, very important part in many people's lives, and it plays a very important part in many European societies and even around the world. In North America, South America, Africa, Asia, football is the most popular game, and I think that it should be played properly when the season can restart. It should be finished, because if you restart the season, like, how would teams feel who were comfortably in a Champions League place, but if you restart the season, maybe that team finished in the Europa League place last season, and so they can start in the Europa League when the season is restarted. I say that it just doesn't make any sense. And you throw out 75% of the season when so much time, effort, money went into this season, and the players gave their all. And I'm just not saying that just as a Liverpool fan, but as a football fan, I don't think it should be like this. Honestly, there are so many teams who would be so
mad and so angry if the Premier League season and all the football seasons around the world just got cancelled. It would be devastating. It would have devastating repercussions, not just morally but legally as well. There would be so many lawsuits that the courts couldn't handle it, honestly, in my opinion. And as a Liverpool fan, I know that we need to wait and we need to be patient, and everything needs to be safe before we can start thinking about playing football. But this idea that just to cancel the season is just, it doesn't compute with me. And even if I was an Arsenal fan and it wouldn't affect me, I mean, it just wouldn't feel right. It just wouldn't feel right to me that you cancel a season that is already 75% completed. It would be a totally different situation if we would be like in the first half of the season, or even at halfway stage of the season, but like we only have 9 games left. And the fact that Liverpool only have to win 2 more games to be Premier League champions, I mean, it would be just the absolute worst case scenario, the absolute worst nightmare of any Liverpool fan. We waited 30 years for a league title, and then a global health crisis happens, and yes, we could wait another 5, 6, 7 months for the title. But if this season is cancelled, then I mean, when will Liverpool ever win the Premier League again? It would be just an unthinkable scenario, and I don't even want to contemplate that in my mind, because I'm just going crazy thinking about it. The good news is that it has been revealed by journalist Chris Williams that UEFA are strongly against voiding this season, and non-completion of the 2019-20 campaign could lead to non-qualification for next season. This is what this journalist said. The leagues who voided the seasons could find it difficult to nominate Champions League and Europa League representatives, meaning teams who would qualify for the Champions League or the Europa League, especially if other leagues complete their seasons. Non-completion could lead to non-qualification, could be seen that teams did not qualify if the season is voided. Brings also the issue with the country's coefficient, which would hurt all the teams in that country, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if some seasons would be completed, like just take the Premier League's example, if the Premier League decided to void the season and the Serie A gets completed, La Liga gets completed, the French League gets completed, and teams qualify for the Champions League and the Europa League, then how could the Premier League nominate teams for the Champions League, especially teams like Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, who are so close to the top 4, the top 5 in England? It doesn't make sense that some leagues finish their seasons, some leagues don't. I think UEFA should command every league to be finished when it's safe to do so, and then they can work out when next season can start. But first, I think the seasons needs to be finished. Otherwise, how can you decide who gets relegated? How can you decide who gets promoted? How can you decide who qualifies for the Champions League, for the Europa League? It opens up a whole big can of worms if you don't finish the season, not just in the Premier League but anywhere in Europe, and it wouldn't be fair to the fans. I mean, some fans have been going to games, every home game and most away games for the whole season, and then you just tell that fan this season never happened. It's like you spent a lot of money on going to games and it doesn't matter. The season is cancelled. I mean, what? Why would you do that? And I want to give you guys the expert's opinion as well. David Maddock, who is the Northern football correspondent of the Daily Mirror, this is what he said. The Premier League did the right thing by going against government advice, because the advice first, it was still to continue, so they suspended the league. And it's a good thing that the Euros got suspended or postponed, sorry, because this gives clubs a lot more room to complete their seasons. And of course the clubs could get the virus clear of their players, and you could then play behind closed doors. That is a possibility according to David Maddock. I don't think it is, but let me know what you think about that. And I think if it does get played, the games in the summer, that's how it will be according to David Maddock. I actually think the government advice will eventually be that David Maddock is saying, so if there is a way of playing games behind closed doors and screening them, then that would help, and obviously only if it is safe to do that for the players and the people who would have to be involved in that. You can't put players or staff or anybody else who is in the stadium at risk. And you have to finish the season if it's possible. People are saying that they should void it to avoid legal action, but it doesn't. Because if you void it, there is no promotion. So what are Leeds and West Brom going to do? If you complete the competition, there is no argument and there's no legal challenge. But if you void it, there is a whole host of legal battles and lawsuits coming your way. And also, many people want to see the season finished. Liverpool fans want to see the league finished. Manchester City would probably lose 2 more games, but even if Liverpool lost all their games in a very unlikely scenario, they would probably still be champions, and they should be champions. There is absolutely no doubt about that, but you need to finish the league for Liverpool to be champions. The only people who might not want to see it are basically people like West Ham fans, who are just above the relegation zone. But for the integrity of the competition, it needs to be finished. Rob Harris, who is another football correspondent, said this: they should complete the season. One of the challenges is the European competitions, the Champions League and the Europa League, and whether they can find a reconfigured way of getting those games over the line quicker with a changed format. As for the Euros, that is delayed by a year, and there could be a knock-on effect for the women's Euros, which could be moved to 2022. So I expect football to resume and everyone will have something to smile and cheer about again amid all the doom and gloom. And Alison Rodd, the sports writer of the Times, is saying this: these are exceptional times, and the big money the Premier League have, it's enough cash to make sure they can sort out a plan so lower league clubs, lower division clubs do not go out of business, do not go bankrupt. If they want to term it as a loan so it's eventually paid back, so be it, but there is enough money going around at the elite level of the game to ensure that in these exceptional times when all economics do not apply, that they can reassure the smaller clubs that they will not go out of business, because it will eventually hit them when grassroots clubs and smaller clubs don't exist anymore. There is a lot of money in sport, and I'm sure that clubs are sitting down right now and working out if they pay the staff who are not doing anything, but also do they pay the people who they see once a week or once a fortnight, who rely on that income. Football will be absolutely ruined if it isn't completed, and no one wants that. Martin Samuel, a chief sports writer for the Daily Mail, says this: it will get completed, the Premier League season, because you can't bring in an arbitrary way of completing it halfway through the season, so all the ideas of working playoff systems out don't work, because you can't change the rules of competition halfway through the season. They have got to complete the competition. The only thing you could do if you weren't going to complete it is to void the season, and there is absolutely no appetite from just about anyone to void the season. No one would want to see that. It will complete, but when no one knows. And yeah, he wrote this before this Premier League executive came out and said that the Premier League season should be voided. This is a completely unprecedented situation, and there is money in European football and within the Premier League game that could set up a fund to help clubs through hardship. There are going to be plenty of well-run clubs, but there are going to be other clubs who are struggling. And I appreciate what all the managers are saying from the National League. Without a doubt, one of the motivations of the National League will have been money, but not for the league itself. It will have been money for those clubs, because your most vulnerable clubs are at the non-league level. If you've got no gate money, no revenue from the tickets, then you are toast in the National League, because they are not getting the sponsorships or anything else. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I can understand why clubs at that level and the league have tried to keep it going. It's a hugely perilous situation for hundreds of clubs, and that's what the experts are saying. So let me know, guys, what do you think about this topic, and all your comments, leave them down below. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this. See you later, guys. Goodbye.